Chapter 185. Oh, is that so? Well, it looks like Hachi receives a thank you gift of meat. So we're in the middle of the fight. Captain Usopp, the Destroyer King, has emerged. He proceeds to basically play whack-a-mole with Miss Merry Christmas, which is appropriate considering her mole-like abilities. Of course, as it turns out, his 5-ton hammer is something of an illusion. Mr. Four comes to, and Miss Merry Christmas realized she's been tricked because she was scared to death of it. Everybody, including Chopper, were buying into his story because of how sincere and convincing the whole thing was, which is certainly Usopp's strength, right? But it's actually 4.4 pounds, not 5 tons. Chopper resolves himself to find a way to beat these guys. He seemingly gets blown to pieces while Usopp's being chased by Miss Merry Christmas. She's kind of like doing the Tremors underground thing, but she's a mole. So Usopp cleverly jumps a wall and lets her ram her head right into the wall. That was good. Brings down whatever structure this was on top of everybody. Not as great, but it does disrupt the fight. Chopper figures something out and tells Usopp to stay away from the mole. Can't tell if he quite clogs the dog's nose or he makes him sneeze into one of the holes in the ground. Regardless, it's hard to quite tell exactly what happened here, but regardless, that results in a massive explosion that explodes through all of the holes. And Miss Merry Christmas and Mr. Four, I think, might have been in one of the holes, maybe. But that's the weakness of Mole Town. So it wasn't really the dog. It was just the fact that they are all connected, and he made the dog sneeze into the hole and blow the whole the tunnels up, basically. That's clever, and that's the end of the chapter. So chapter 186. 4. So Chopper and Usopp are standing there after the explosion. It looks like our 3 opponents are still somewhat with us, and Usopp decides to run for it, which doesn't work out. Miss Merry Christmas can just mole herself underground and grab over near him and grab his leg. And they let Miss Merry Christmas decides to tell Usopp and Chopper that Crocodile has defeated Luffy because he died, right? So she tells him that he died. I thought so too, right? So this pisses Usopp off in a way that we haven't seen really before. He doesn't believe it. He doesn't think it's possible, but it awakens some kind of resilience within him. So even though they basically beat the crap out of him here, he won't go down. And he keeps trying to say there comes a time when a man's got to fight, and that's when somebody makes fun of their friend's dream. They did by claiming that he's dead and not going to be able to, they laughed at his dream of becoming, right, the king of the pirates, Luffy's dream. So, Usopp, this is good. Usopp covered in blood. And his nose crooked and everything. He's like, that's the one thing I won't let you laugh at. Meanwhile, Chopper goes into his, extra special transformation horn boost form. Usopp tells Chopper to get behind him, and they basically trick Mr. Four. Instead of hitting them or a baseball with the bat, he ends up knocking Miss Merry Christmas, sends her, as that's the terminology we've been using. He sends her with the baseball bat, and she goes flying. Then Usopp does a hammer shooting star on Mr. Four and sends him and the dog. I think between Chopper and him, because Chopper's got his, I don't know if Chopper actually rams anybody. It's not quite obvious. All 3 of them, Miss Merry Christmas, Mr. Four, and the dog gun thing, get sent, and there's a ball that drops right near them, and then it explodes. So Usopp and Chopper win. Wonderful. So then we get this little reminder at the end of the chapter about the map and who's where. So we know this fight just ended. We got Mr. 2 versus Sanji, and then there's a Mr. 1 and Miss Doublefinger versus Nami and Zolo. fight going on. So we'll see what fight's going to be next. Chapter 187, Stalemate. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 5. Hachi encounters a hungry man. And it looks like he gives him his meat. Okay, so we're catching up with Koza and the rebels here. Koza wants to go to the palace. That's what we basically find out. Then we catch up with Vivi, who tries to enter the palace, and they don't really want to let her in until, or at least the pathway to the gateway to the palace. Then she has to reveal herself to get them to listen to her. We got some kind of plan, and then we move to Mr. 2 versus Sanji fighting, and they're pretty well matching each other hit for hit. We get to see more of Mr. 2's karate. Oh, come my way karate. And Sanji's kicks. And they more or less are... Sanji might be a little ahead here, honestly. Because Mr. 2 decides to start to use his clone powers. And he attempts to do some kind of montage, a clone montage, to have different parts from different clones that he has access to. And he more or less just shows up as himself with Usopp's nose. There's a little bit more going on there, but that's pretty much how it looks. And Sanji makes fun of him and just kicks him. Mr. 2's not stupid, and he does figure Sanji out, and he realizes if he turns into Nami, that Sanji won't be able to hit him. Totally fine with hitting his friends. You put a beautiful woman in front of him, and he becomes... his, inner pervert takes over, basically. So that is bad news for Sanji. Meanwhile, Vivi is at the palace talking to, I think it's Choka, or, the advisor guy here. And she wants to destroy the palace because she needs to create some kind of distraction that'll stop the fighting for long enough that she can intervene. And the point she's making is this palace isn't the country. We're not the country, it's the people, and they're fighting each other right now and killing each other, so that needs to stop. So ultimately, that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 188, Oh Come My Way Karate. We got Hachi leaving the hungry man who gave him a ring for being fed. I don't know what this ring is, but Hachi receives a ring in gratitude. Destroy the palace. Are you mad? You can't be serious. Vivi has apparently made her case because I think it's Chaka agrees. He says, as you wish, Princess Bride vibes for a second there. And we go back to Mr. 2 and Sanji, who Sanji is currently being soundly defeated by Mr. 2 cloned as Nami. But Sanji keeps convincing himself that it's just the swan inside, but anytime he looks at her, especially, Mr. 2 really plays it up and tries to show some skin. It just destroys Sanji's usefulness, as usual. So, fortunately, something happens here, and Sanji is able to defend himself once Mr. 2 attacks. It takes him a minute, but he realizes that Mr. 2 cannot attack with his Oh Come My Way karate unless he's in his actual form. So that leaves a moment for Sanji to actually do something because Mr. 2's not going to look like Nami. So in those moments, Sanji's able to basically take him apart. It takes a minute here, but that's more or less what turns the tide of this fight. He even tricks him into touching his left cheek right at the end. I don't know if this is the end of the fight, but it looks to me like Sanji's basically won. But it's not declared over here at the end. And that's the end of the chapter. Kind of in an interim here. We've moved from volume, 19 to 20 or 20 to 21 or something. So the war continues. Until next time, it'll be here. Like and subscribe. Peace.